Quick note before we begin the episode. Episode 200 is fast approaching, and to mark the occasion, Hussam and I will host a special Q&A session with questions from you lovely treasurers. Click on the link in the show notes to submit your question, and we will even send a $10 gift card for our favorite 5 questions. It can be about careers, treasury, Corporate Treasury 101, or even what Hussam's favorite ice cream flavor is. Deadline to submit your question is December 15th. Have a lovely episode. Welcome to the Corporate Treasury 101 podcast. This is the third and final part of our full interview with Karen Van Den Driessche when we discuss the role of the Belgian Association of Treasurers and Karen's role as its president. In the episode of today, expect to learn what is the role of ATEB, the Belgian Association of Treasurers, what initiatives does Karen Van Den Driessche aim to implement as the president of the ATEB, the philosophy of ATEB and how they envision partnerships and knowledge sharing, and like always, much more. We hope you will enjoy the episode. If that is the case, and when you're thinking about how you found our podcast, chances are that it was through word of mouth, social media, or a recommendation from your favorite podcast platform. And this is our only request to you. The best way you can support the podcast is to head to YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Corporate Treasury 101. That will mean the world to us, help more people learn about treasury, spread the treasury word, and on top of that, you get to see our faces. On another note, this episode is brought to you by Automation Boutique. Automation Boutique is empowering treasury, finance, and risk management with tailored automation solutions. They use robotic process automation, or PA, AI, APIs, and Power Query to create automations that can work with your existing systems. We partnered with Automation Boutique as we really like their approach to innovation and how they help the industry. For this partnership, they came up with an AI-powered automation self-scan that can help you find out if a business process is suitable for automation and how to best get started. It is totally free, non-intrusive, and only takes about 15 minutes. What's great is that the report you will get from the scan helps you determine if the benefits of the automation outweigh the costs. If you want to have a look, head to the link in the description or to automationboutique.com/corporate treasury 101. And with all that being said, please welcome Karen Van Den Driessche.
Tell us about the skills that you develop in that environment. So if a treasurer today listening is a little bit bored, they think, well, I want a bit more of a challenging environment where treasury is listened to a little bit more, where, yes, it's going to be tough and everything, and I don't get the latest TMS, and I don't have access to all the credit facilities that I do right now. But I feel like it's going to give me an opportunity to really push myself to be able to navigate that challenging environment. What advice would you give to that person? What skills do they need? How do you find solutions? Or if someone's in that environment right now, what silver lining can you give them? Hey, by the end of it, you're going to have these skills.
I think there's a couple of things. I think to your first point is you already need to realize or know yourself enough to understand whether you would thrive. Maybe that's too much of the word, but that you would feel okay in that environment. Because I think, again, it's personality. Some people are very good at being maybe very technical within a big organization. I think so. First step I think would be will I function well in that environment? I think that's the first thing, and that's different for every person. I actually didn't think about it. I'm fine now, but I actually never thought about it when I went into when I stepped into this. But I think the other part is really being able to put things into perspective, right? It's not personal. You're trying to do the best you can. I don't know. Things happen. Be pragmatic. Address the situation as it comes. Don't get overwhelmed. There's not going to be the perfect solution, and you will. I think the other point is you will have to make choices. And sometimes I think, is it, what do you call it? Is it the cholera or the plague? sometimes you might feel that way when you have to make choices. So those, I think, are the main, and communication. Sorry, I think I mentioned this several times, but I think communication: be open, be pragmatic, and communicate and listen. I mean, because you cannot do this by yourself. This is not Treasury having the weight of the company on their shoulders. I mean, it is a joint task, and everybody plays their role in that organization. I think those would be, but again, like I said earlier, it's, again, my view, it's fun. You learn new stuff, you get involved in a lot of things, you start to be pragmatic. I wasn't that pragmatic before because I had everything, right? I could do the best, and I'm maybe another one, like as I'm saying this, is that not everything's going to be perfect. For me, everything had to be perfect. I applying the 80-20 rule was really difficult for me. Now it has become a lot easier. So I think those are the skill sets that putting everything into perspective is probably the most important one.
I think it's overall crisis management, right? And the skills to go with that. Yeah. I think the 80-20 rule, for example, is a really good one. Are there any other like methodologies that you kind of, or frameworks that you came across that's the approach that you take to solving these problems?
No, just apply common sense.
Which is already
something that is missing very often.
Exactly. Well, and you get to learn stuff. You mentioned inventory management. That's not something you would typically look into in a traditional treasury department, right? But it's so critical that you get involved.
So my supply chain team will tell me that I have no clue what you're talking about.
Well, probably more than most treasurers. So you get to touch upon things that you wouldn't otherwise within the business, which is getting back.
And I think, see it as an opportunity, right? I mean, I don't know if you want to remain in treasury for the rest of your life. Maybe you don't want to do this. But if you have any interest of maybe at some point during your career to move outside of the pure treasury area, I mean, this also gives you the opportunity to look at what else is out there. I mean, would I like to do, I don't know, and I'm not directly saying a CFO role, but maybe going into the controlling side, maybe in FP&A, maybe consolidation. I mean, there's so many different roles out there. You expand your horizon and you learn other things. But coming back to the first thing is you need to be interested in it. If it's not in your nature, if that's not what you want to do, then maybe don't look at these type of roles.
You touched upon it earlier already, but so you don't have a TMS. And we had the questions around what tools and what innovation do you put into this environment? But then I guess probably not many. What are the tools that you actually use in that? Well, Excel, obviously, probably.
Well, we have SAP, right? So we have SAP. So we use a couple of the elements from the SAP Treasury module. So we do have an in-house bank set up. And so we use the whole in-house bank module in SAP. So we do have some tools. We do use a lot of Excel, yes.
There's no shame.
No, there's no shame. And I think Excel is a great tool.
100%.
My concern with Excel is the human error that can go in there, sometimes the inefficiency and the risk of losing your data. For example, we have moved that now to our SAP platform, but our whole FX and commodity hedging program was in Excel. All of the information is in Excel. So when I joined, I said, do we have 5 backups of that Excel, please? In different locations on your computer, on the shared drive.
And one hard copy printed out.
So that is my biggest concern with Excel. And so we use the banking tools. So we download all of our bank statements. Well, so there is step back. We have an interface. We upload all of our bank statements directly into SAP. So we have host-to-host connections with most of our banks to do our payment files. So it's not like we're in the dark ages, right? So we have a lot of technology. It's just the upgrade of the technology or spending money on going into a fully integrated TMS, for example. That's what's missing. But we do have tools. And then
have 20 key fobs on your desk to log into each bank.
You have the phone now. It's all apps on the phone.
Authenticator.
So, but yes, I still do have that. Yes. I don't have a full Swift connectivity, which I used to have. So no, I mean, it is. But you also, again, thinking or mentioning earlier, you think out of the box. So when I joined, I mean, we needed to have a lot more visibility on our working capital, and it was really hard. So what we've been working on, and so maybe on the skill set part, maybe at this point, and I don't think this is related to sub-investment grade companies or not. I think the skill sets that you require within the treasury organization are changing, right? And so I think we need more, if I can call it, technology skilled resources. And so I have the chance of having somebody in the team who's on loan, I would say, but she's really, and she knows about it. I call her the tech geek. She's really good, but we needed to have visibility on our working capital. So she's built this whole Power BI model, which gives us all of the data. It connects to our PPC and SAP platforms, but it gives you the visibility. It gives our senior management visibility on a monthly basis, how are our KPIs. So you start using other skills or other tools to bring that visibility and to have that.
Back to these skills questions, right? Being able to do with what you have and actually come up with ad hoc solutions with traditional tools is a very good one, because then it helps you have a very light version of a TMS to help you report and do analytics.
Yeah. And then I think, again, maybe on tools that are available in the market, there are, and it's, again, the last couple of years with all of these fintechs and all of these new systems that have been built, it's finding there are a lot of tools out there that can help you with a specific problem, where if you're maybe in a more mature treasury organization, you would rather go for a full-blown TMS or a fully integrated system. I think there are benefits of using more how do you call it, specialist tools for the specific issue that you face. But then it's again finding the one that actually delivers what it promises without too much implementation. So again, I think that is, and it comes back to something that I've always been saying, is find a tool to solve a problem you have, rather than, oh, there's this great tool, which problem do I have? But that is very often, I mean, what's going on. So I'm like, what is your issue? What is the problem you're trying to solve, and find the right solution for that.
Karen, there are questions we would like to ask you to another part of your treasury life. But before we get into this, anything else you'd like to add about sub-investment grade treasury management in such company, skills, advice for people who are in such environment?
I think we've covered most of it. It's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard work. It's fun, but you learn a lot. Like working in an investment grade company is fun and hard work as well.
For sure. For sure.
So I think it's just like understand the environment that you're in and try to do the best you can in whatever environment you are. I think that would be my last comment.
Amazing.
Super cool. So Karen, you're also the president of ATEB, right? The Association of Treasury Experts in Belgium.
Correct, yeah.
Super cool organization, very fancy name.
Nailed it.
Tell us a little bit about it. What do you do there? What's your role?
Okay. Maybe some background. I mentioned earlier, I've been in Treasury for roughly 25 years. I've been a member of ATEB for roughly 20.
Oh, really?
And ATEB exists about 31 years. I've been the president for the last 8 years or something. The role really, and the mission, I guess, of ATEB, it was founded by, and I think it was 4 gentlemen who actually wanted to have, they had the exchange of ideas and information sharing and so on, but they wanted to make it a little bit more formal and give other people also the opportunity to, in a, I call it, closed, friendly environment, be able to exchange ideas. And so that mission or values is still the core of what we try to do within ATEB. So to try to create an environment in which people can exchange ideas, learn from each other, and that way elevate the treasury profession in Belgium.
Super cool. So how do you do that? Like, what does the ATEB do exactly?
So we organize events. We do ad hoc events. We try to organize an event probably every month, which is usually in person. During the COVID period, we were more webinar, and actually we didn't do that much because we were so, I think, tired of being in front of the screen. And so we do organize an event about once a month. Then we have a treasury summit, like it's a half a day, that once or twice a year. And then we do some bigger events, like we had a tech day in March of this year. We had a full day event with some of the vendors. So different type of activities, but mainly focused on a content topic, whether it's presented by a vendor, a bank, a corporate. So topic and networking activities. So where we really feel that people learn the most from each other and get in touch with each other is at the networking events after an event or after a topic event, let's call it. We have since last year introduced just quarterly informal after drinks work, where we don't have a formal topic that is being discussed. But we do understand, and the feedback we get from our members is that they really do like that combination of the content topic with then the networking afterwards. They're fine for networking just once in a while, but they really like the content as well. Mm-hmm. And maybe one more that we organize is what we call a snapshot or a treasury corporates only event, where, I don't know, a corporate will do a presentation on their organization. What are the challenges they're facing? What are the things they've recently implemented? Where they need help? And it's really corporates only, because it's really this exchange of information, like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Do you have any experience on that? And then we form work groups, for example. It's like, okay, not all of the people, but a number of people who use the same TMS. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have a work group in which they exchange information as an IT. So those are mostly what we do.
So I was going to ask exactly that. How comfortable are treasurers sharing their problems with each other? I guess if you take the banks and the vendors out,
then it's pretty
difficult.
Yeah. Now, I think what is important to notice is that, is that ATEB used to be corporates only until probably, well, time flies, but probably 5 years ago. Okay. And we were one of the few national treasury associations who did not open their membership for non-corporates. Mm-hmm. And when we proposed it to our members, there was a lot of discussion because nobody actually wanted to open up membership for other or for non-corporates. We finally got there, but with the agreement with our members that we would continue to organize events that were only for corporates. And so within that only for corporates, information sharing is pretty open. I mean, to give you an example, it's like, hey, I'm doing an RFP with Bank A and this is the pricing I'm getting. What is your pricing?
Yeah.
So yes, very open.
And what are the pros and cons? Like when you were deciding on whether to integrate non-corporate people into this association, to understand a bit the dynamic of an NTA, National Treasury Association. What are we should bring in the banks, the vendors, the consultants because of that? Mm-hmm. And what were the corporate size of people saying, hey, no, we'd rather keep it between corporate?
Well, I think there's a couple of elements, right? I mean, the pros or the reasons why we brought non-corporates in is because, I mean, it is the treasury, how do you say it, ecosystem,
landscape, yeah.
Right? And there is valuable insight from bankers, from vendors, from insurance companies. And so giving that platform to exchange information makes sense, because otherwise you have only this one-sided view only from a corporate. So that was for us the biggest reason to accept non-corporates. The challenge is that and a bank, a vendor, a system vendor, they're there to sell a product, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
And so it's finding that right balance between being there, exchanging information without them selling us a product. And that was the hardest sell, or the hardest sell internally, is that if a member is too much of a salesperson, they're out.
Okay.
But do they need to be members? Can you not just invite them to events?
They were invited to two events. We used to have we still have that, and they were invited, which was our year-end drink. And to the summit, they could also participate, but the other events they could not.
So why do you need to give them a membership?
Because there is this interaction and this exchange of ideas, which makes sense. I mean, it is important for us to also see a bank's point of view, right? It is important for us to also understand how a systems vendor builds his product, what's behind it. I mean, and even to show his products. I'm not saying they cannot be fully commercial, but in the exchange of information, it's not a sales conference, right? They shouldn't be there to sell. And I think we've made it very clear, and it works fine. It works fine. I mean, yes, it is very much respected.
Do you need to enforce it, or do you need to enforce it at some point?
Some, yes.
Okay.
There are some people who...
Individuals or companies out of interest? Both.
Yeah.
Some companies just have that culture.
Yes. I think it's because it is that company culture and... Yeah.
Very sales orientated.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just a couple.
And sometimes
individuals inside.
But overall, I mean, like I said, it's fine. I mean, we've made it clear from the beginning. And also Belgium, and I guess like other times or countries, I mean, it's a small world, right? So everybody already knows each other, and somebody who would not act out, I mean, he would be called upon not just by ATEB members, or not just by the corporates, also by non-corporates. They would say, hey, this is not acceptable. So you do see it sometimes with new people coming in who are new to the... but then there's this, self-regulation that happens automatically. Yeah.
Nice. So I guess you can't talk about ATEB without talking about the Belgian treasury landscape overall. So what's that like? So, I mean, having lived in Belgium for so many years, it's a small country. It's just quite close-knit amongst the treasury community as well. Is that right? It's like ATEB members, you can't just, even outside of ATEB, I guess, you kind of know all the other treasurers. And
yes, although, like you said, I mean, you have a lot of different size organizations in Belgium. I guess if you look at it, 20 years ago or probably longer ago, when you had a lot more multinationals in Belgium, so a lot of them have gone. I guess the difference that you have is you have these really big international firms, and then you have, I guess I'll call it my type of firms, and then you have the smaller companies where maybe they don't really have a treasurer, but we then do treasury activities, and that's where, and maybe I can touch on that later, but those are the ones that I don't think we managed to reach. So I think that if you look at who is member of ATEB, it's a segment of the treasury profession in Belgium, and that there is a group that we don't manage to reach. But it is a very tight-knit one, and everybody knows each other, and then even if it's a non-ATEB event, I mean, so there's a lot of interaction there.
And so how many people are in the ATEB, just for us to grasp a bit?
I was gonna check before we started, and I think we're roughly at 200 members. So we have individual memberships and company memberships, and then we have the corporate and then non-corporates.
Okay.
I think we're roughly about 200 individual people that are in the membership.
That's interesting that you want to bring in the non-treasury people who have treasury-related tasks or assignments within their role because the group is not that big. Is there any particular motivation for that? Back to the knowledge sharing and...
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, I mean, if you look at a smaller organization who might not have a full-time treasurer, but it's somebody in finance who does treasury activity. And so they're still making payments, they're still collecting money. So I think similar type of activities, maybe at a less big or a smaller scale, maybe less sophisticated. But yes, I mean, I think treasury is happening in some way or form in every company. And so the question is we've tried, but then it's like, how do you find the people? Well, sounds like, how do you find the people who think would be interested in it, or for who we could bring something? And then don't forget, ATEB is we do it as a hobby.
Yeah, it's voluntary based.
So it's not always easy to, I mean, we all have a job, we have family, we have a lot of social activities, and then ATEB is on top, which we all like doing, but it does limit your time that you can actually spend on it or improve.
What missions do you have at heart as the president of ATEB, Karen? Because you've been doing it for so long right now. So what are the things you're particularly proud of that you built within ATEB? What are the projects that you now have that you'd like to see go through? What are the things that matter to you?
Well, I start, and I don't know if that's typical me or typical Belgian or something like that. I start with the less positive aspects. I mean, I think I think there's still so much we could do. I personally think that I have to. No, not. I don't think. I know that I have to say thank you big time to my board, because the last couple of years I have not been very present. I've been a little bit preoccupied with some other things, and so I think I personally feel I have lost a little bit. What I want to do is stand for ATEB, make sure that people know ATEB, that they know what we stand for. Is like being really that ambassador of what we can do for the members. So that's something I've lost a little bit. Which I really would like to get back into. But again, our board, which has increased since last year, has been doing really a good job of. Amazing. So that's good. So I think coming back is what I want to do is, and I've been saying it through the whole interview, is making sure that people can exchange information, can learn from each other in all openness and honesty, without feeling that there's going to be repercussions because you, I don't know, challenge something or don't agree with something. I think that's, and I think by sharing this information, by being able to have open discussion, it can only increase your knowledge, the professionalism, and that's really what I want ATEB to stand for.
Amazing. Is ATEB visible worldwide?
ATEB is not necessarily visible. Well, I guess it depends how you look at it. So ATEB is part of the EACT, so the European Association of Corporate Treasurers, and is also part of the ICTA, which is the International Group of Treasury Associations.
Okay.
So the EACT actually consists of the European National Treasury Associations, and we all have a affiliation. Well, we're actually all a board member. So every entity, so every local National Treasury Association has a board representative in EACT. And then there are a couple of international organizations, like I think Hong Kong, the US, South Africa, which then form the ICTA, so it's the European plus some others. Now, so within the European Association of Treasurers, yes, we have our voice and our knowledge. I mean, European Association of Treasurers has been more focused on regulatory lobbying.
Yeah.
Right? So there's been, and maybe less visible now, but there is still a lot of legislations that's happening that is impacting us as treasurers. And what we're trying to do with the ACT mainly is to make sure that the real voice or the real economy is heard to our legislators, because they might have legislation that is to address certain things that have happened with the banks. Yeah. But with putting certain legislation out there, it has an indirect impact. And I'm sure legislators are not aware of that, right? But it has could have a certainly negative impact on the real corporates, because banks and corporates are not the same, right? And so that is really what the ACT is trying to make sure, is that from a legislative purpose, the voice of the real customer is heard as well. And so that I think is and that goes through lobbying and things like that. And then lately also EACT has been focusing more on education, exchange of information, making sure that, I mean, there's so many, again, knowledge in each of the associations. Why can't we work together? Why can't I just work together, I don't know, with the Dutch, with the French, with the UK, and have exchange of information there? So that is what we're really trying to focus on now again. But then every National Treasury Association is organized differently. So I think that is also very important. I mean, like I said, ATEB is really a hobby, right? Which we do besides it. And there are other organizations like in France and like in the UK, which is actually it's a company. Yeah. People are employed, they have employees, they have small or big, but so they have full-time people. So it is a different approach.
Karen, amazing. Thank you so much for coming on to the Corporate Treasury 101 podcast. Did you have fun?
I had.
That's the most important.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about any of the topics we've discussed today? So whether it's the rating side of things, managing an organization, or being in a treasury role in an organization which has this rating, the transition, which is my main takeaway, was actually the transition is the biggest part. The steady state is fine, yes, but it's really the overnight.
Yes.
That's super cool. Yeah. Or ATEB, anything you'd like to add?
No, I think we've covered a lot of ground. I just hope it was interesting. I hope it made some sense in what I was saying. I think, for ATEB, especially for the Belgian listeners, if you haven't heard of it, if you're not a member, join us. It's a fun group, I think. And I mentioned that at the beginning, but we really do like to have fun. We try to stay professional. But it's just, again, a way of getting to know new people in a different environment and to be able to get some knowledge. What I think is great is like you meet somebody, you get their phone number, you pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm dealing with this issue. I'm reviewing my treasury policies. Do you have an example for me? Those type of things get done. And so I don't think it shouldn't be considered hard work. So that's really what I wanted to say about ATEB. And then in general about the company, it's like, I think you nailed it. It's the transition that is the most difficult part. But that's it, I think. Yeah.
Sounds good. So we'll have all the links to ATEB, to yourself as well, in the show notes. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.
Amazing.